Hey guys, today on What the Tech, we'll be taking a look at the brand new Reaper, the electromechanical version in particular, and how to install it.
What the tech?
Alright, so the electromechanical Reaper, unlike traditional HPA systems that include a wire harness and an FCU and all that, all you need for the electromechanical is this very simple 2-wire wire harness. That's what's included with your Reaper cylinder for the electromechanical kit. Now, one of the really nice things, there's a few things about the electromechanical design that we like, reasons we went with the electromechanical instead of doing a pure mechanical or something like that. First reason is compatibility. You can see I have two different gearboxes here. I have a V2 gearbox and a V3 gearbox. This is actually out of a Bren. Because you're utilizing the existing trigger contacts, this system is compatible with a really wide range of guns, whether you use a traditional shuttle system or a microswitch trigger. All sorts of different designs will work. Whether it's a V3 trigger mechanism, V2 trigger mechanism, it all works. You don't have to worry about making it fit, in different gearbox types. Now, it also maintains 100% of the efficiency and performance of the full version with the FCU. Now, you don't have full auto, obviously, but you don't take any hit on efficiency, and a pure mechanical system uses air to pilot the system, and so you end up losing some air just piloting the valve. The trigger response is also oftentimes not as consistent. Here you get the full consistency because it's still being opened electronically. So that's the why. Let's get into the how. This is really pretty straightforward. You will need a soldering iron, and that's about it. Other than that, all your normal tools for getting into the gearbox. So let's pull both these trigger boards out and look at how this is going to be set up. You can see on both of these trigger boards there are 2 wires going in. This is really just a switch. On almost any AEG it works the same way. This is just a simple on-off switch. Now that's all we need for the electromechanical. You have 2 wires going in, just like on the V2 over here, you have 2 wires going in. And all we're going to do is take the 2 wire leads that come on the electromechanical wire harness, and we're going to just solder them in like that. Orientation doesn't matter because you're just closing the circuit. The direction the electricity is flowing doesn't matter. We have 2 pads here on the V2 that we can wire into, and then you'll just simply set it back in the gearbox exactly how it was. So let's step over to the solder station and let's go ahead and solder these in. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do this here. We're going to do the V3 board first, and we're just going to desolder. There we go. The leads come already pre-tinned, so we don't need to tin them. A little bit of flux is always a good idea, though. So we're going to go ahead and take the small pieces of heat shrink, slide them over the leads, so that we'll be able to protect that once we get it soldered on. We put a little bit of flux on the connections to make sure that we get a good solid solder joint. There we go. There's our V3 board. All we do is hit that with a hairdryer or a heat gun if you happen to have one to tighten up your heat shrink. Now on the V2 board, there's also going to be 2 pads. Just desolder them first. This pad was actually not very well soldered from the factory, so I'm going to put a little extra tinning on it. Now we're just going to, again, the wires are already pre-tinned, so we're just going to solder them in place. And it doesn't matter which wire goes to which pad. There we go. That's your V2 electromechanical trigger installation. Now to actually install this wiring, we'll take a look at the V2 first. Just going to drop it in like you normally would and put in your standard screw for your to hold it in and reinstall your shuttle, and this just plugs into your solenoid. At that point you can run the wires out either back to the buffer tube or into the grip, whatever you prefer. V3, it's going to be much the same. We're going to run our wires through. We're going to plug our solenoid in so we can see where the wires need to sit. Tuck them up above here. If we are going to be running the wires through the front, then we would do it like that. On the Bren, I believe we're going to be able to run them out the back. So we're going to do that, and the wires simply can sit here. Alright, so this is what it looks like once you have the electromechanical installed in the V3. You can see the wires come out up at the front here. This is your battery wire. And I do want to point out one thing. When you're heating up the heat shrink, you want to, as you heat it, to bend it back in towards the gearbox. On the stock, with the stock switch, the wires come out of the gearbox. We need them to come back into the gearbox to match up with the solenoid. We just unplug this, get it out of the way. We're going to run our wires through there. All we're going to do is just pop the trigger mechanism back in place with the shuttle installed. Maybe a little snug, but just kind of play with it, figure out where it's hanging up, and it should just pop in place, right like that. Now we're just going to take our retaining screw. This is the stock screw. Tie that in. If you didn't do it when you put it together originally, go ahead and put your spring on. I always like to do that step separately. I just find it easier than messing with the spring while you're trying to get the trigger unit installed. So, there we go. Now we can check that our wiring isn't interfering with the movement of the trigger. Looks good.
Alright guys, so that's the rundown of how you do the electromechanical installation. Like we mentioned, it works in a really wide range of gun platforms. So for instance, the 417 here has the electromechanical in it. Again, just uses the standard trigger switch. Really pretty straightforward to do. Great system, semi-automatic only for this setup, and you can always upgrade to the other electronics later if you decide you want full auto. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube, and we will see you guys out on the field.